Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. In this one I am discussing and sort of sharing a principle or an idea that I've been sharing actively with my students, whether you're in the course or if you are in coaching, or even actually with some agency clients, because they even need it sometimes as well. And it's really the concept of doing less to achieve more, or anti-productivity, or there's actually a couple other terms that I didn't come up with, but actually students come up with to really define what I'm talking about. And to summarize really what it is, it's actually spending less time working instead of more time working if you want to get more done. So if you're in a crunch, you actually spend less time working. Let me explain why this is, and let me explain why I do this. And I mean, I am 19 years old, right? And I work from home. And I probably work 4, maybe 5 hours a day, okay? And a lot of that work is stuff that I enjoy, okay? And not only that, but I have free time out the wazoo. July 4th, tomorrow, when I'm recording this, I'm throwing a big party with a bunch of friends of mine. And I rank in 6 figures from the business. And if you don't know what that means, it means over $100,000 a year, right? So let me really clarify for you something. And that's that, it's effectiveness versus productivity, okay? So productivity is kind of this useless idea. It doesn't work, okay? Productivity, scratching off things on a to-do list, is not what gets things done, okay? What gets things done is identifying the actions or the activities that actually move the needle, and then constraining yourself to only do those things, okay? So if you invest in coaching or if you invest in the course, one of the first things that I do is I help you remove the hustle mentality. And I help you actually identify, or at least learn how you can begin to identify those actions that actually move the needle. And this isn't just business either. This is everything. This is life, even relationships, right? Before you can properly love someone, you need to know what their love language is. And then if you just commit to that love language, it's easier for them to feel validated by you, and you can have better friendships and better relationships. Right? Or if you can figure out what somebody needs to hear in order to solve a problem, all you need to do is say that thing, right? So it's not so much the work that actually moves the needle, it's what the work does, right? And so if you want to work hard, you can just pick up a bag of bricks and move it 5 miles, and you'll have worked very hard, but unlikely you'll get paid from that. It's unlikely you'll get paid from that, and not only that, but it likely won't really move the needle or change anything in your life besides give you sore legs and potentially a, worsened back, right? So how do we achieve things? How do we effectively approach a goal that we've set in mind? Through work, right? How do we actually take work and make it effective? So the absolute first thing you have to do is identify, and everybody has in their business, no more than like 5 things that actually matter. There's never any more than that, right? And typically, if you're really smart and you're really good at what you do, there's probably only 2. And if you are a beast, you got 1 thing, and you just focus on the 1 thing, and nothing else matters. Okay? So if you're just starting your agency, for example, because I teach people how to start and grow social media marketing agencies on this channel, I teach people how to do it very effectively. And I have a very small audience, as you know. I'm not a huge, online influencer with a couple 100,000 subscribers and massive email list or something. I'm kind of just a humble dude on the side doing this and loving it and making a lot of money while I'm doing it, right? But my students, per capita, my students are much more successful than other students because I teach them this first. So what can you actually do to actually optimize your business, optimize your life, and do the things that only move the needle? Well, you have to look back at your successes. Look back at your successes that you've had, and if you haven't had any, then reverse engineer. Look at a success and fake it and just pretend you've had a success, and then reverse engineer what it takes to get there, okay? And this is going to be a bit harder because now you're thinking hypothetical, right? But if you've had a success, let's say you've had a paying client before, what actually made that happen, right? What actually got them to talk to you? What did you say on the meeting? Ask them even. Ask the client, say, hey, what brought you here? What motivated you to work with me? I know we've been working together for about 4 months now, but I'm just trying to figure out my processes here. Do you mind sharing really the key things that made you pick me over other people? Right? And then you have already a list. right? And so for me, I know there's only a few key things that I have to do in my business. If I can just optimize for those, then I'm getting more done. And let me talk about limiting your workday too, because that's something I haven't hit on enough. Because you can just do a certain 3 or 4 things and not limit your workday, and in your mind you're probably thinking, well, that's just as effective, right? Well, wrong. It's not as effective. Because when you give yourself permission to work all day, you're giving yourself permission to create unnecessary projects, to adopt unnecessary responsibilities, and to have a very fatty workday where there's not very much lean effectiveness. Because when you give yourself permission to spend 4 hours on a project that should only take 20 minutes, then you're going to do a minute here, a minute there, a minute here, a minute there. Instead of spending 20 minutes getting it done, you're going to stretch it out over 4 hours, right? And so it's unlikely that anybody runs a business, and I would even say even the top CEOs in the world, it's unlikely that they run a business that requires of them, if they optimize the business, any more than 4 or 5 hours a day. It's unlikely. And this follows a principle as well, that you get more done in a year's worth of putting in a little bit of effort than you do in a day's worth of going crazy. And so this principle doesn't just work in the short term, okay? If you only do this for a week, you're not going to see that big of a difference, okay? Even just for a day. Even though sometimes I'll get DMs or messages from people saying they tried this and it worked really well. But you know, you should expect to try it for at least 4, 5, 6 months, okay? And you'll begin to notice a massive difference, just an absolutely massive difference. Like, for example, today, I got up about 7 a.m., went to the gym, got back, took a cold shower, which I really love cold showers, read for an hour. I did some work around the house to get ready for the July 4th little party that we're having tomorrow. I made myself breakfast, watched a module in a program I'm going through, and then got to work. After all of that, okay? And this is a part of my work today. This is a part of what I've scheduled is to record this video, right? And then once all this is done, which will be about 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard, I'm going to cut off my workday, say I'm done, and force myself to do something else. And what this forces me to do is to do within those 4 hours what I absolutely must do. Because if you allow yourself all day, you also allow yourself to slack. And I hope this is making sense. So the key things you should take away from this video is 1, identify the actions and the activities that actually move the needle and the things that actually get done what you need to get done, okay? It's very uncommon that your income is purely related to and associated with the amount of time that you put in. It's just doesn't exist, okay? It's only related to the value that you bring, right? So you can bring more value by actually limiting yourself and forcing yourself to be more creative, right? So limit yourself, identify the things that matter, right? There's probably only 3 or 4 things that actually matter. Then limit yourself to 4 hours a day, and if you've got the balls, 3 hours a day, okay? Which I haven't gotten there yet, but some people that I know have. And then after that, once you've limited yourself, spend the time that you're not working either learning or productively relaxing, right? Which is like reading or watching a documentary that you've been meaning to get to, or do things that you've wanted to do for a while anyway. Like for me, in this closet, I have a dream board that I'm setting up in there right now, and I'm just going to pin on it some visualizations that I want, like, you know, my dream like house setup, my dream like you know, like a picture of maybe something that I also want to do is do more ministry work. I want to like have a picture of somebody who's involved. I don't know how I could represent that visually, but that I want to have a representation of somebody giving somehow. I don't know how I could do that, but a lot of giving. So I want to have a dream board set up in there. And if I worked 10, 12 hours a day like some of these entrepreneurs are doing, I wouldn't have time to do that. I also wouldn't have time to keep my room clean or have time to, you know, stay fit and healthy or have time to spend with family. So here's the only thing. Here's the catch-22. When you're just starting, it's really hard to do this because you don't know what the effective actions actually are yet, okay? So that's the first step, is identifying them, and it's going to be hard when you're first starting. But as you grow and you actually recognize them, I encourage you to cut out everything else and only do what matters. And you're thinking maybe you'll get less done, you'll make less money. Actually, no. It's the economic law of specialization. If you only do a specific thing very, very well, you make a lot more money than people who do a lot of things half well, right? So I encourage you to look into this idea. I encourage you to implement it. and to report back to me your findings and what actually happened. And you can do that by joining the free Facebook group that we have for my viewers and other people who run agencies or anything like that. And you can actually share your findings there. So I have a sales call that I have to get to. I'm a little bit over now. I'm a little bit late. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one.